Hi, I'm Lisa. If you use English at work and if you would like to sound more confident and more like a native speaker, I believe this video will help you a lot. We will continue our series of listening to native speakers in Los Angeles. You will listen to my conversation with a business coach, also called an executive coach. His name is Gene Sullivan. He works with people who are already successful at their jobs. He helps them develop their businesses and develop their leadership skills. I'm excited about this video because Gene uses so many valuable expressions that I would like to teach you. These are expressions that native speakers use all the time in a professional environment. And as usual, we will talk about some rules about English pronunciation and the American accent. Before we start, I want to remind you to pause after each expression that I teach you. And then I would like you to create your own sentence in addition to the sentences you hear me saying. That way, you're much more likely to not only remember them, but to be able to use them when you're speaking English. And that's the difference between passive knowledge and active knowledge. Active knowledge means you are actually using the words when you're speaking English. And that is the true test of fluency, isn't it? All right, let's watch the first clip of Gene, and then I will come back and I will teach you the expressions that he used. Tell me about what you do. What is your job title?
Technically, I'm an executive coach. Sometimes I just go by the term business coach. And I work with people who are senior in their companies or entrepreneurs to help them develop their businesses or their leadership skills.
I see. Can you give me an example of what types of skills they would need to develop that they don't naturally have?
Many of my clients are already successful, particularly technically. They know their business. They know what they do. And it's more the interpersonal skills, how to relate to other people, what kinds of things from their personality type get in the way of them being effective leaders.
That sounds kind of like emotional intelligence.
That's a big part of it. That's a big part of it. Many of my clients are technical people. So they're engineers, they're accountants, they're VPs of finance. They've really grown the success in their career by their ability to know their technical stuff.
It sounds like it's not something that people innately know how to do.
Some people do, but mostly no. Absolutely right, mostly no.
We don't get that training in college.
We don't. We don't get emotional intelligence training, and the other bucket is conversational skills. How do you phrase something so the other person can hear it?
What do you mean by hear it? Understand what you mean.
Understand what I mean, but also if I'm very direct with somebody who's not very direct, they're going to get emotionally triggered. And what happens, it's called an amygdala hijack.
A what?
An amygdala hijack. And the part of our brain that controls emotion is called the amygdala. And when we get an excessive amount of emotion, the amygdala takes over. And it takes our executive function, the frontal part of our brain, it takes it offline. So all our logic, all our good common sense, all goes away when we're too emotional. So if I'm delivering a message to you and I say it in such a way that triggers you, then you may not be able to hear anything I'm saying. It's really important to get on the same page, to understand what's important to this person in their job, and is what you're talking about supportive of that, or does it potentially conflict? And you want to be aware. It doesn't mean you don't bring it up, but you want to be aware of what's likely to happen when you bring the topic up.
I see. Listen to the way I used job title. That's a compound noun, and we stress the first word, job title. Tell me about what you do. What is your job title? Instead of saying, what is the name of the job that you do, you can say, what is your job title? What kind of work do you do? What is your job title? He got a promotion, and now he has a new job title. Let's listen to the way Gene used the expression, go by.
Sometimes I just go by the term business coach.
Instead of saying, that's another name that I have, or that's another job title I have, you can say, I go by. And it's commonly used like this. My name is Robert, but I go by Bob. You can also say, people call me Bob, but it's really common to say, I go by. Let's listen to the way Gene pronounced entrepreneur.
And I work with people who are senior in their companies or entrepreneurs.
The most common pronunciation mistake with this word is the EN. We say it the French way because the word is borrowed from French, so we don't say entrepreneur, we say entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. Repeat after me. He's a successful entrepreneur. Let me give you another pronunciation tip. Let's listen to the way Gene pronounced how to relate to. He didn't say how to relate to. Listen to what he did with those T's. He said how to relate to.
How to relate to other people.
How to relate to. Instead of saying how to, he said how to. I don't know how to do this. I'd like to learn how to swim. So very often native speakers don't say how to, they say how to. How to do that. I don't know how to do that. The next expression is to get in the way of. Let's listen to the way Gene used it.
What kinds of things from their personality type get in the way of them being effective leaders?
Gene said things from their personality type that get in the way of them being effective leaders. To get in the way means to prevent something from happening or to prevent someone from doing something, and often it's related to achieving a goal, to get in the way of the goal. For example, you can say this: I won't allow anything to get in the way of my goals. We sometimes let our emotions get in the way of making rational decisions. Don't allow your party lifestyle to get in the way of your studies. Let's listen to the way Gene used emotional intelligence. That sounds kind of like emotional intelligence. It's very important for leaders to have emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? It's the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions and to handle interpersonal relationships well. I heard another person say that emotional intelligence is the key to professional and personal success. Let's listen to another definition.
Emotional intelligence, written about by Dan Goleman. Knowing who you are, having a self-awareness, knowing how to read a crowd, knowing how to motivate other people, how to build your teammates, how to be authentic, how to be real.
Let's listen to the way I use the word innately, and listen to the way I pronounced that T. I held the T, I said innately. It sounds like it's not something that people innately know how to do. I said, it sounds like it's not something that people innately know how to do. Innately means instinctively, naturally. If something is innate, you're born with it. You naturally know how to do it. Children have an innate ability for language. And now let's listen to the way Gene used the verb to phrase.
Like, how do you phrase something so the other person can hear it?
To phrase something is to express it in a particular way. And if you have emotional intelligence, it means that you know how to phrase things well so that the other person can respond well. You can say, be careful how you phrase it. Or, I didn't phrase that well. I should have phrased it differently. Be careful how you phrase your criticism of him. Don't hurt his feelings. The next expression is to get triggered. Let's listen to the way Gene used it.
If I'm very direct with somebody who's not very direct, they're going to get emotionally triggered.
You can say, he got triggered or he is triggered. If you get triggered, then something affects your emotional state. You have a strong emotional reaction of anger or fear. You can say, he started yelling because he was triggered. Let's listen to the way Gene used the phrasal verb to take over. He talks about the amygdala taking over.
When we get an excessive amount of emotion, the amygdala takes over. And it takes our executive function, the frontal part of our brain, it takes it offline.
He said, when we have an excessive amount of emotion, the amygdala takes over. To take over means to take control. And we can say, the new boss will take over next Monday. I'm really exhausted. Could you please take over? He said, it takes our executive function offline. And executive function is a group of important mental skills that allow us to plan and achieve goals, to think clearly and logically, and to have self-control. And when our executive function is offline, it's disconnected. We're not using the executive function. And the opposite of offline is online, right? When you're on your computer and you have access to the internet, you're online. Let's listen to how he used the expression common sense.
So all our logic, all our good common sense, all goes away. when we're too emotional.
He said, all our good common sense goes away when we're too emotional. And common sense is good judgment and good sense in practical matters. The ability to think logically and intelligently. Listen to his advice. He has a lot of common sense. Or, you showed a lack of common sense when you made that bad decision. And listen to the way he used the expression to deliver a message. And it doesn't mean to deliver like you deliver a package. It's slightly different.
So, if I'm delivering a message to you and I say it in such a way that triggers you, then you may not be able to hear anything I'm saying.
To deliver a message is to express yourself in a particular way, to communicate in a particular way. Let's listen to how another person used to deliver a message.
If you don't deliver a message with confidence, you're never going to go anyplace.
The next one is a really common expression, to get on the same page. Let's listen to the way Jean used it.
It's really important to get on the same page, to understand what's important to this person in their job.
To get on the same page means to think in a similar way, to agree, to have the same understanding of a situation. So we can say, we're on the same page, we agree. Or, we're not on the same page, let's try to get on the same page. I want you to listen to how he stressed the verb to conflict. He didn't say conflict, he said conflict.
Is what you're talking about supportive of that, or does it potentially conflict?
When we stress the first syllable and we say conflict, that's a noun. So we can say, we're having a conflict. This is a conflict. But if we say conflict, that's a verb. You can say, our opinions conflict. Let's listen to Jean.
Or does it potentially conflict?
He said, does it potentially conflict? Let's repeat that. Does it potentially conflict? Let's listen to the next clip of Jean where he's talking about his job. And then I will come back and I will teach you some more expressions. Are a lot of companies investing in this type of training?
A lot of companies are, but most companies aren't. So this falls into the category of soft skills training. And it's becoming more and more clear to big organizations and even to smaller organizations how important it is. You know, one of the things that research tells us is that employee engagement is low. So that means how interested people are in coming to work and how much they enjoy it and how involved in solving the problems that the business needs solved.
What is the opposite of employee engagement?
Going through the motions. Sometimes I work with groups and teams. Sometimes I work with individual executives. Let's say somebody has been moving up through the company fairly rapidly. They've been very successful. And they've been very successful as a technical expert.
Okay.
And then what happens is they get to a place where now they're managing a small group of people or even a large group of people. And that requires different skills. Their expertise, while it's important, they have to make the shift from being an expert to being a leader. There's a trend that happens in most companies where people are promoted because they are the expert in a particular area. They've really mastered that area. And then when they're raised into the management ranks, what happens is they need a whole new skill set because their expertise is why they got promoted, but now they need a different skill set. They're happy about the promotion, but many of them do not know what they're getting into. They've had this career that's progressed because they're expert in their field.
Right.
And they've demonstrated their ability to do many things, specific things. And now they're in a position where mostly their work is judged by what the group produces.
Oh.
Previously, they've been judged on what they produced. And that shift is not something they're necessarily told about. And some companies are very good about helping people with that transition. But many times it's just like, congratulations, you've done a great job. Here's your new job. And now you need all these new skills, but you'll learn them because you're sharp.
That's not enough.
It's not enough.
And that's where you come in.
Exactly.
How do people get in touch with you?
The best way for people to get in touch with me is send me an email. My email address is Gene, Gene, at GeneSullivanCoaching.com.
Oh, great. And you are available for one-on-one coaching and corporate group coaching.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Do you know the expression soft skills? Let's listen to the way Jean used it.
So this falls into the category of soft skills training.
He said this falls into the category of soft skills. Soft skills are non-technical skills that relate to how you work. For example, soft skills can be management skills or communication skills or leadership skills. And when I train people in companies and I do accent reduction with corporations, I teach soft skills. You can say, that company invested a lot of money in soft skills. Another very common and useful expression for you to know is going through the motions. Let's listen to the way Jean used it.
What is the opposite of employee engagement?
Going through the motions.
I asked Jean, what is the opposite of employee engagement? And he said, going through the motions. If you're doing something only because it's expected or it's required, but you're not really excited about it, you're not really interested in it, you're only going through the motions. You're not making any effort. You don't care. You can say, he doesn't care about his job. He's just going through the motions. Let's listen to the way Jean used the expression, moving up through the company.
Let's say somebody has been moving up through the company fairly rapidly.
To move up through the company means to get promotions inside the company. And he said, if you're moving up through the company fairly rapidly. So instead of saying pretty fast or quite quickly, you can also say fairly rapidly. You can say that employee moved up through the company fairly rapidly. Let's listen to the way he used the expression to make a shift.
They have to make the shift from being an expert to being a leader.
When they move up through the company, they have to make a shift from being an expert to being a leader. To make a shift means to change, to move from one position to another. You can also use shift as a verb, to shift. You can use it in the past tense. She shifted her opinion on the topic, or he refused to shift his position. The next expression is also really common, to get into. Let's listen to the way Jean used it.
They're happy about the promotion, but many of them do not know what they're getting into.
He said they're happy about the promotion, but many of them do not know what they're getting into. To get into something means to get into a situation, and often it means to get into a difficult situation, to get involved in something challenging. You can say to someone, you have no idea what you're getting into. You can say, you want to quit school and move to New York without a job? You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Let's listen to the way a few other people used it.
Understand what you're getting yourself into and evaluate your own ability to provide the solution.
You can be a parent at a very early age and have really no training or understanding of what you're getting yourself into.
Let's listen to the way Jean said, you'll learn them because you're sharp.
And now you need all these new skills, but you'll learn them because you're sharp.
Sharp means intelligent. You can say, he's a very sharp guy. He's smart. And listen to the way he said because. He didn't say because you are sharp. He said because you're sharp.
And now you need all these new skills, but you'll learn them because you're sharp.
Let's repeat that. You'll learn them because you're sharp. Let's listen to the way I use the expression to come in.
That's not enough.
It's not enough.
And that's where you come in.
Exactly.
I said, and that's where you come in. And that means, and that's where your job starts. That's your role. That's your responsibility. That's where you're needed. That's where you come in. In part 2 of my conversation with Jean, he will give us a lot of really valuable tips about how to develop leadership skills. Make sure you watch the second part. There are a lot of other expressions that I will teach you that Jean uses, and these are particularly valuable if you work in an English-speaking environment. And to have an active knowledge of the expressions that you just learned, make sure you make your own sentences using these expressions. Create your own sentences from your own life and say them out loud. Thanks for watching and keep practicing your English. To get the 2 courses, the American Accent course and the 400 advanced words you must know for fluent English, go to accurateenglish.com.